Hi everyone, Michelle here from michellesmidheaven.com. I hope you're all doing well. Saturn is going to station retrograde on July 26th, and while Saturn already appears to be pausing in the sky at 14 degrees of Aries, it's a good opportunity for us to pause and think about what that means for us. Any retrograde station always involves the sun because it's an important phase in the relationship, in that rhythmic dance between a planet and the sun. Just like every planet reflects the sun's light, the planets all have a solar message for us, you could say. And solar messages always have to do with the direction our life is taking in general, like some kind of mission almost. The stationing phase is one of the most important stages in the planetary cycle, and when something is important, it gets more intense, so we're more likely to pay attention to it. It's an ideal moment for us to take a look at Saturn's current cycle in relation to the Sun that started on March 25th of this year with their conjunction at 4 degrees of Aries. So here's that 4 degrees again, right? You've probably noticed how everything has been happening at 4 degrees lately. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Jupiter are all occupying that degree. Neptune stationed retrograde at 4 degrees Aries a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, consider for a moment now what was going on around the time of the Sun-Saturn conjunction on March 25th. Think of where Aries is in your chart, but also think of where Saturn signs of Capricorn and Aquarius are, as well as where your natal Saturn is located in your chart. And since Saturn is a slow-moving planet, consider what happened in April as well. It's usually a gradual buildup, especially with Saturn. Since this was pretty close to Neptune, it might have been about some kind of disillusionment. And Saturn too likes to let us look at what's real, which is good because, funnily enough, a lot of things that we didn't imagine to be possible turn out to be totally real. While at the same time, Saturn never hesitates to kind of stomp his heavy black boots on some of the things that we believed to be real, but they're not. I checked my journal and I had a lot going on at the end of March until mid-April. And I really did make more than a few of those unpleasant Saturnian discoveries. One thing that I can share as an example is that I found out that our town had plans to cut down the trees behind our backyard, which I found devastating news. And it revealed the end of something, Saturn, and it involved cutting Mars, the ruler of Aries. So that's a very straightforward example that I wanted to share because the symbolism was so spot on. Now, there were usually several things going on at the start of the Sun-Saturn cycle that fit the overall symbolism, but not all of those things will come up again around the stationing phase. When we keep our eyes and ears open, though, we may discover which themes are going to stick, right? What's the bigger story of this cycle that started in March? And by the way, this particular Sun-Saturn cycle will end on April 7th next year. So what does the stationing phase mean for us? Typically, we hear that retrograde stations indicate reversals, setbacks, and delays. Something that we received or something that we have built up disappears or is taken away from us. That's a standard definition, you could say. But I think it's too easy to say that a retrograde planet simply means some kind of reversal is going to happen. There's more going on than that. Because while these types of reversals definitely can happen, I want to emphasize another perspective today. We could think of it more like something has gone as far as it can in one particular mode. The method has exhausted itself. The new thing is no longer exciting, and now things just cannot keep moving forward in the same way. So let's not look at a retrograde station as just an interruption, right? I wonder if it may be more helpful or meaningful to see this phase as a part of a larger unfolding, almost like you're reading or writing a book And you're moving through several chapters because this is still the opening or waxing phase in relation to the sun. The sun has been moving away from Saturn since March, so a new story has been developing. But when Saturn turns retrograde, they're actually both going to move away from one another until they oppose one another on October 4th this year. So, what's happening now is the first real distance that's being created between Saturn and the Sun. And more distance creates a broader perspective on things. More distance means less entanglement and more objectivity. And we can think of the relationship between two planets a bit like a relationship between two people. At first, they become infatuated with one another, right? They meet at the conjunction, and the conjunction is always a union. It's intense. Everything happens all at once, everything changes. Like wild young lovers, they project all kinds of things onto each other. During a conjunction or a cazimi, we usually see a wide range of events that express several, if not all, of the planet's natural significations all at once. There's a lot of momentum, a lot of power in this conjunction phase. And then a little later, some themes are starting to take shape. Oh, this is what we're all about, right? And gradually, there are a couple of themes that are going to withstand time, and those are naturally absorbed by the dynamic of the growing relationship. But for something to become concrete, practical, real, something that endures the test of time, there has to be distance. So, what do I mean by that? Just like in a relationship, at some point, you need to take a step back from your idealization and see the real person instead of the perfect image that you projected onto them. And this phase starts with the retrograde station. It's the phase where disillusionment and sometimes disappointment begins. And now, to be clear, I mentioned disillusionment at the beginning, that it was embedded in the Sun Saturn conjunction, but that was in the context of the natural significations of Saturn and, of course, Neptune's co presence there, right? Cazimis or conjunctions with the Sun are always going to express a planet's natural significations in an intense way. And disappointment is a part of the significations of Saturn. But now I'm addressing the opening retrograde stationing phase in general for all planets, because that phase, regardless of the planet involved, is going to have that flavor of disillusionment or disappointment, because during that phase, some of the fantasy is bound to collapse into reality. But it doesn't mean something has gone wrong. It's actually a very natural phase in the process. Saturn sees the Sun from a trine, for example. That's a natural development. It simply means that the first big phase in the relationship between the Sun and the planet, in this case Saturn, has completed itself, which isn't always easy because it's a kind of disenchantment, and life seems so much more fun when all the possibilities appear to be open. But things evolve, and you made some choices on the way, and what you're left with now are the most realistic options. And now, as the retrograde phase begins, we're being called to use our creativity to make the most of what remains. Sometimes during the stationing phase, some things that looked like they were developing or ongoing, they're going to disappear through a concrete event. This is where we can speak of the classic reversal or setback of a planet turning retrograde, right? But it's not simply that something you've been building is taken away from you, or it's not that you have failed or anything like that. Look at it as a necessary process of elimination so that you get to have more room to focus on what's most essential in that Aries and Capricorn Aquarius part of your chart so that you can keep building that and not waste time on anything else. Now, another thing I think about with retrograde stations is how ancient astrologers often saw retrograde motion as a very negative condition, as if the planet could no longer do its work properly. But from another perspective, based on my practice and certainly concerning a slower moving planet like Saturn, I noticed that a retrograde Saturn usually makes fewer demands. It's as if the pressure subsides and we're actually left with a little more freedom. And this is going to be different for each of us depending on Saturn's natal placement. But in general, I think we can say that there's probably going to be less support from those strong Saturnian qualities, such as Saturn's perseverance, determination, self-discipline, Saturn's ability to make a sustained effort and put in the hard work. I think of it as if Saturn steps away for a moment and removes our training wheels, so to speak, so that you're on your own now and you need to learn how to do all the Saturnian stuff all by yourself for a while. So you can ask yourself, what kind of changes would I need to make to come up with my own routine or my personal worth ethic? Maybe you can divide one big goal into several sub-goals. So there's more room for you for your own creativity, for your own willpower. But again, you're also more on your own. And you know what? In Aries, the sign of Saturn's fall, we're definitely being invited to approach matters in a very practical way. We may discover how things that we thought would take up tons of time actually don't need that much time and effort at all. We may find out that we thought some things required much more planning and organization than they do. Once Saturn leaves the stationing point and journeys back through Aries, it's going to turn out that you get to solve old problems pretty quickly because Saturn's host Mars likes quick solutions. Aries is a pioneering sign, and with Saturn putting less pressure on us, we're going to enjoy a little more freedom to sort things out efficiently, logically, with focus and martial passion. It's great to track Mars in that sense. With both Saturn and Neptune in their retrograde sleep, we're going to rely on Mars a little more again to take control of our Aries business. All right, those were some of my thoughts on Saturn's retrograde station that's coming up Sunday. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to share this video, of course. And by the way, if you use Substack, you'll find more of my content there. I'll leave a link below. And if you want to reach out for a reading or for some private tutoring sessions or classes, just get in touch with me at michellesmidheaven.com. Don't be shy. I look forward to reading your comments as well. Thank you so much. Until next time.